Have you ever felt like your whole world has collapsed and no one noticed? When pain explodes inside, but on the outside, everything goes on as if nothing had happened. When losing someone or yourself seems like just another Monday on the calendar of life, and yet something inside you insists on not erasing it. If you've ever felt this way, this is your story. Keanu Reeves is known worldwide for his films, his action scenes, and his elegant coolness in characters like John Wick. But few people know what lies behind this image. What happens when the fictional hero falls apart in real life? When reality becomes crueler than any Hollywood script. He lost his best friend to an overdose. Then his daughter was stillborn. Months later, the woman he loved was in a car accident, and she was gone. 2. All of this happened in silence. No scandal, no sensational headlines. No cameras recording his collapse. And yet, or perhaps because of that, he decided to continue to be a light in the world. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover now might surprise you. This isn't just another celebrity biography. It's a Budoverkoming. Adversity, about how pain can become fuel. About how a broken soul can still choose to be a beacon instead of a shadow. Here, every story is a spark. Every video is a safe space to remember who you are, even when the world tries to make you forget. Have you ever been through this? That phase where everything seems out of place, where loneliness seems bigger than any stage, and no one sees what's going on inside you. Keanu went through it, and he made an invisible decision, one that changed everything. Many people think that a change comes with fame, success, and a new opportunity abroad. But the truth is more silent. True transformation begins within. In that moment when no one is watching. In that choice you make in the dark, alone, without an audience. That's what Keanu did. While the world went on, he silenced his pain with kindness. He donated money in secret, treated everyone on set with respect, rode the subway like everyone else. While so many used their fame to hide their shadows, he chose to use it to spread light. And it all came from a decision no one saw. A decision he made when he had almost nothing left. You may be living your own invisible tragedy. Maybe you're trying to figure out how to move forward when everything tells you to stop. And that's why this story matters. Because it's not just about Keanu Reeves, it's about you. It's about me. It's about everyone who once felt like they were at the end of their rope, and yet decided to keep going. And this is where the story really begins. Because what happened after that silent decision was bigger than any action scene. But before I go any further, let me make you a real invitation. If this topic resonates with you, if something here touched a part of you that you may have forgotten, write in the comments. It doesn't have to be perfect, beautiful, or articulate, just true. Sometimes, the simple act of putting into words what you feel is the first step towards reclaiming who you are. And what's more, someone else reading what you wrote might feel less alone too. If you felt that this story resonates with you, like this video. Not only because it helps the channel, and it really does, but because it shows YouTube that more people need to hear this kind of truth. And if you want to continue following stories like this, which are not just about fame or overcoming, but about soul, identity, and decisions that change everything, subscribe to the channel. Your presence here makes a difference. It really does. It's what transforms this space into a place of connection, where each comment is an echo of someone trying to remember that there is still light. And now we continue, because Keanu's journey and what it reveals about you is still just beginning. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because what makes Keanu Reeves' story so impactful is not just the tragic events themselves, but the way he chose to react to them. There's a huge difference between suffering and being shaped by pain. And he chose the latter path, even if that path meant walking alone for a while. Imagine losing your best friend, Someone who was part of your emotional foundation. Someone who knew who you were before all this. River Phoenix was that for Keanu. His death was more than a loss. It was a break with a piece of his own history. Then, the news that his daughter would be stillborn. And as if that weren't enough, a few months later, the woman he loved died in a car accident. There's no way to rationalize this kind of pain. It comes without a manual, without logic, without respite. But this is where the invisible twist comes in, because what he does after that is not what the world expected. He doesn't break down. He doesn't take revenge on life. He doesn't turn into someone bitter, cynical, cold. On the contrary, he plunges into a silence that to many could seem empty. But for him, it was where a new identity blossomed. Not the identity of a Hollywood star, but of someone who understood that the only thing he could control was who he chose to be, even with everything falling apart around him. And that choice, that silent decision, is where the real impact lies. He didn't go on talk shows to tell his pain. He didn't make a movie about himself. He didn't shout to the world that he was suffering. He just kept going. With small gestures, with presence, with humanity. He kept riding the subway, sharing his earnings with the film crew, treating strangers with the same respect he treated the big names in the industry. This stance became almost an emotional backdrop that no one saw, but everyone felt, the hidden truth behind the respect he commands today is not in the box office or the awards. It is in the decisions he made when no one was looking. And this is so powerful because it forces us to look within. What do we do when no one is looking? What kind of decisions do we make when pain comes without warning, without anesthesia? There's a mindset behind all of this that needs to be addressed. It's not about being strong in the traditional sense. It's about being aware that what life takes away sometimes reveals what it could never give. Clarity. Clarity about what matters. About the kind of person you don't want to become. And about the kind of person you can choose to be, despite everything. Keanu didn't become light because he had everything figured out. He became light because he accepted to walk even without a map, even without answers, even with open wounds. And this, perhaps, is the greatest form of transformation that exists. Not the kind that screams, but the kind that remains. The kind that impacts without needing to prove itself. The kind that touches because it is true. Comment. I'm on this journey too. I want to know who else feels that, even in the dark. There is still something inside them that hasn't been erased. Because what makes a decision truly powerful is the fact that, often, no one witnesses it. There is no applause, no cheering. Sometimes there is no certainty. Just that raw, intimate moment between you and yourself, where something inside simply says, enough. Enough of surviving. Enough of getting lost. Enough of living in the dark. And it was exactly at that invisible point that Keanu Reeves rebuilt himself. What Keanu did at that moment was not to react with anger, nor to try to fill the void with fame or excesses. He did not fall into the trap of wanting to prove something to anyone. He chose to preserve what was left of himself. He chose to continue being who he was, even without the support of those who were no longer there. And that requires more strength than any heroic act in the movies. Think about how many people try to show the world that they are fine, that they have won, that they have overcome, while inside they are in ruins. Now imagine someone who, even in ruins, decides to carry on with dignity, with compassion, with integrity. Keanu did not rebuild himself because of a successful role or a new love. He rebuilt himself because he understood that his soul was worth more than any wound. This is one of the most ignored hidden truths when we talk about overcoming. The greatest transformation is not the one you show. It is the one you live. The one that no one applauds. The one that happens in the silence of your room, in the middle of the night, when you decide that you will continue even without knowing how. Because you understand deep down that giving up will not give you anything back, and continuing, no matter how difficult it may be, is the only way to stay whole. It's no wonder he's called the nicest man in Hollywood. This didn't come from fame. It came from the pain he didn't allow to turn him into bitterness. And from that invisible decision, everything changed. The way he treats people, the respect with which he walks through the world, the calmness in his gaze, none of this was born of success. It was born of the choice not to be swallowed up by darkness. And the most curious thing is that this turning point, this breaking point, happens in silence, without an audience, without a script. It's that night when you cry alone, and even so, the next day, you get up and go. It's the morning, when you decide to care for someone, even though your heart is in pieces. It's when you stop expecting the world to understand you, and start living in a way that makes sense to you. Keanu didn't make this choice a banner, he made it a way of life. And that, in itself, is what makes his journey so powerful. Because it reminds us that it's not the big moments that define who we are, but the small, quiet ones that are deeply ours. Comment below. That makes sense to me. I want to know who else feels that true change starts from within. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. Because what makes a result truly extraordinary is not the brilliance it generates, but the shadow it overcomes. When we look at Keanu Reeves today, what stands out are not just his remarkable roles, the films that broke records, or the money he has accumulated throughout his career. What is most impressive is what we cannot see. It is what lies behind the calm gaze, the gentle gesture, the silent humility. There is something there that did not come from stardom. It came from pain, and the way he decided to go through that pain. Hollywood is an industry that turns people into characters and often erases who they really are. But with Keanu, the opposite happened. The more famous he became, the clearer his character became, his soul, his human value. And that's what made him a symbol of respect in a culture that values performance so much and so little depth. He has come to be recognized not only for being good at what he does, but for being good with who he is. Behind the scenes, there are stories of Keanu giving up his own salary so that the technical team could be better paid. Stories of gratitude, of generosity, of real empathy, not for marketing, but because he truly believes in it. Because after everything he has been through, he has understood that success without impact is not worth as much as presence with purpose. And all of this was born from that silent decision. I choose to continue, not with bitterness, not with anger, but with lightness, with truth, with humanity. That's the difference between someone who survives and someone who transforms. Between someone who reacts and someone who chooses to respond with awareness. Keanu didn't just overcome a difficult phase, he became an even greater person because of it. And that can't be bought. It can't be rehearsed. It's built in the silence of the days when the world isn't watching. Today, when someone calls him the kindest man in Hollywood, it's not an empty title. It's a reflection of small, accumulated actions. It's the recognition of a kind of greatness that doesn't appear on the cover of a magazine, but it transforms any environment he steps into. Because there's an energy that only comes from someone who has known pain and decided not to let it harden their heart. This is the true influence. The one that doesn't need to be said, that doesn't depend on numbers, that doesn't ask for applause. And that, even so, changes lives. Because when someone chooses to move on in peace after so much chaos, that choice radiates, touches, frees. It's almost as if it were saying without speaking, I've been there too, and I know there's a way out. That's what makes Keanu Reeves so magnetic. What he went through could have destroyed him, but he decided to use it all as raw material to be even more whole. Not perfect, but real. And that, in a world of filters and masks, is so rare. That's why his presence has such an impact. Because it demands nothing. It just is. Write it down. I choose to continue. Because sometimes all we need is to remember that this choice is still available, always, even when everything seems to be against it. What about you? Have you ever stopped to think about what you would do if the world tried to extinguish your light? Not in an obvious way, but in those little situations that no one notices. When they tell you, with words or silences, that you are not capable, that you are not enough, that you no longer have a chance. When the days start to seem the same, when you wake up with a weight that you don't even know where it comes from. When your own dreams start to seem too distant to be real. In those moments, what do you decide? It's easy to look at stories like Keanu's and think they belong to another universe. That people like him are different from us, live in another world, have another emotional structure. But the truth is that pain is pain, loss is loss, and silence is silence. You don't have to have lost a daughter, a love, or a best friend to know what it's like to be on the brink. Everyone carries their own abysses. What changes what we do with them? Maybe you are going through your most difficult time right now. Maybe you are at that exact point where everything seems confusing, where you look around and see no way out. Maybe you have plans that you have shelved, ideas that you have stopped telling others because you are tired of hearing that they will not work. Maybe you are feeling like you are at your limit. And if that is the case, let me remind you of something that may seem small, but is huge. You are still here. And that alone is proof that you have a choice. That, despite everything, there is something inside you that still wants, that still feels, that still believes, even if deep down, even if well hidden. That is what you need to connect with now. It is not about having a plan. It is not about knowing what to do. It is about allowing yourself to decide that it is still worth trying, that your story is not over yet, and that you can, yes, experience your own silent turning point. The most important decision of your life may be the one that no one sees. The one you make in a dark room amidst tears and confused thoughts. The one you make on a normal day, looking in the mirror and saying to yourself, I will not give in. This decision, invisible to everyone else, may be the starting point for a new journey. A journey that is yours. Without an audience, without a script, only with truth. That how many times have you silenced yourself to fit into other people's worlds? How many times have you believed more in fear than in possibility? How many ideas have you killed inside yourself before even trying? How many versions of yourself have you buried trying to fit in? Maybe today is the day to leave all of this behind. Not with anger, but with awareness. With the tranquility of someone who knows that you don't need to be loud to be transformative. Keanu didn't scream. He didn't beg to be understood. He simply lived his change from within. And this change, so intimate and silent, echoed so much that it became an inspiration throughout the world. And maybe you don't want to change the world, but you can change yours. You can transform your tomorrow. From a simple choice that starts now. Can you see yourself in that place? Can you imagine your life reflecting a decision that only you will understand at the beginning? Because that's how it starts. In the invisible, in the personal, in the thing that no one can take away from you. Write it down. This makes sense to me. And if it really does make sense, then you've already taken the first step. The journey has already begun. And it only needs one thing, your choice. If you've come this far, it's because something touched you. And that, to me, says a lot. This channel exists for that very reason. To create a space where stories like this can spark something inside you, even if it's silent. So if it made sense to you, if at some point you felt like I was speaking directly to you, subscribe here. That way you'll continue receiving content that's not just about motivation, but about truth, depth, and real choices. Like this video if you've been with him this far. Not because it's a rule, but because it's a sign that this connection made a difference. And comment below, I'm with you until the end. I want to know who stayed until the last second. Who really lived this story with me. And look, there's a video here that complements this topic exactly. If you felt you needed to hear this today, click and stay with me there. Maybe it's the next missing piece for you to understand that your journey is already in motion. Let's go together.